But the Sultan said, "Don't go, Abdurazak. That was only the first half of your fee. Now you have to take the second half." Abdurazak's face turned white. He was very afraid. What second half? What did the Sultan mean? The Sultan turned to his vizier. "This is the second half," he said. "My vizier will give you 100 pieces of gold. Now, Abdurazak, take your fee and go home." The Sultan turned to look at Masrur. Masrur's face was very unhappy, but it was also very funny. Now, and for the first time that night, the Sultan laughed. "I liked that story," said Sultan Shahryar, "but it was very short. There's time for one more story." So Scheherazade began her next story. Chapter 4. Faisal and the Barber. Faisal was a rich young man of Baghdad. He lived in a large house with many servants, but he didn't have a wife. He wasn't interested in love. One day Faisal went for a walk in the streets of the city. He saw a lot of young girls in front of him. He didn't want to meet them, so he turned into a small street. He looked up and saw a beautiful young girl at a window. From that minute, Faisal was in love. Then a man on a horse came into the street. He had many servants with him. He stopped outside the girl's house and went inside. "Is that her father?" Faisal thought. He went home, but he couldn't eat or sleep. He thought about the girl. Who was she? He had to know. An old woman worked in Faisal's house. She asked, "What's wrong with you, sir? Are you ill?" "No," answered Faisal, "but I'm in love." He told the old woman about the girl at the window. "I know that girl," said the old woman. "She's the daughter of a judge. Her father is a very important man." "How can I meet her?" asked Faisal. "Listen," said the old woman. "I know the people in the girl's house. I'll speak to the girl about you. She'll listen to me." The old woman went to the house and spoke to the girl about Faisal. The girl listened. She was very interested. "I would like to meet this young man," she said. "On Fridays, my father always goes out in the morning. Tell the young man. He can come and see me then. I'll speak to him." When Friday came, Faisal was very excited. First he went to the baths. Then he sent a servant into the town for a barber. Faisal wanted the barber to cut his hair, but the barber was very slow and talked about stupid things. "Be quick," said Faisal. "I have to visit friends." "Friends?" said the barber. "Oh, no! Now I remember. Some friends are visiting me today, but I forgot to buy food for them. What will they think of me?" "Listen," said Faisal. "I have a lot of food in my house, but I'm going out. I don't want it, so you can take it. But finish your work and go." Thank you, said the barber. "But now, what can I do for you?" "I know. I can come with you to your friend's house." "No, you can't," said Faisal. "Oh," said the barber. Then he got very excited. "Perhaps your friend is a woman. Yes! Perhaps things will be difficult for you. But really, I can help you. I helped a lot of my friends in this way. Please let me come with you." Faisal didn't want to listen to the barber. "Oh, all right," he said. "Take the food home to your friends. I'll wait for you here. Then you can come with me to my friend's house." But Faisal didn't wait for the barber. He didn't want the barber to come with him. When the barber left, he went to the girl's house. He was very late because of the barber. The old woman opened the door and took him upstairs to a fine room. There he sat and waited for the girl. But the barber didn't go home. He paid a man, and the man took the food back to his house. Then he followed Faisal to the girl's house. When Faisal went into the house, the barber waited outside in the street. Suddenly he saw the judge, the girl's father. The judge came down the street and went into the house. Inside, the judge found a servant. The servant had the judge's money in his hand, so the judge began to hit the man hard. Outside in the street, the barber heard the man's cries. "It's my friend Faisal," he thought. "The judge is killing him." He ran to the door and began to shout. "Help! Help!" he cried. "The judge is killing my friend!" Many people heard the barber and came out of their houses. They stood round the judge's door and began to cry, "Help! Help! The judge is killing this man's friend!" From inside the house, the judge heard the noise and opened the door. When he saw the angry people, he was surprised and a little afraid. Then the barber said to him, "Where's my friend?" "Yes, where's his friend?" asked the people. They were very excited. "I don't understand," said the judge. "Who is this man's friend? Why is he in my house?" "You bad old man!" shouted the barber. "My friend loves your daughter, and she loves him. You know that very well. So you killed him." "Good people," said the judge. "My house is open to everybody. But I'm telling you, this man's friend isn't inside. Come and look." The barber ran into the house, and the people followed him. Faisal heard the noise and was very afraid. He found a large box and climbed into it. Then the barber came in. "There you are, my friend," he said. "You'll be all right now. I'm here, and I'm going to help you." He closed the box and began to carry it downstairs. There were many people on the stairs, and he pushed them out of his way. But Faisal was very angry with the barber. "Go away, you stupid man!" he shouted. "I don't want your help!" He began to kick the box hard from the inside. The barber fell down the stairs, and the box fell out of his arms onto the floor. Faisal climbed out. His arm hurt, and his face was black and blue. He pushed his way through the people and ran home quickly. He had to get away from the barber. But the barber followed him and shouted, "Wait for me, my friend! I only want to help you!" Shahryar laughed and laughed. In the next room, the vizier stopped his work and listened. He was very surprised. "Why is the Sultan laughing?" he thought. "And what is Scheherazade doing? Why isn't she dead?" The next night, Scheherazade began a new story. Chapter 5. The Boy Judge. Ali had a cake shop in the city of Baghdad. He wasn't rich, but he was a good man. He worked hard. Ali had a jar under the floor of his shop. Every week he put a small piece of gold into this jar. This money was for him when he was old and ill. When Ali was 50 years old, he took out the jar. There were more than 1,000 gold pieces inside. "I have a lot of money now," he thought. "I would like to see the world before I die." So Ali sold his shop. But there was one problem: the jar of gold. He couldn't take it with him on the journey. Then he had an idea. He bought some olives and put them in the jar on top of the gold. Then Ali closed the jar and took it to his friend Hussein. Hussein also had a shop. "Please, can I leave this jar of olives with you?" he asked. "Of course, my friend," said Hussein. "Leave the jar of olives with me. Put it here in my shop." Ali was away for a long time. He went to Egypt and then Syria. One day when Ali was in Syria, Hussein's wife wanted some olives, but the shop in their street was shut. "There are some olives in my shop," said Hussein. "Do you remember? Ali left a jar of olives with me, but he never came back. Perhaps he's dead, so we can eat his olives." Hussein went to his shop and opened the jar of olives. But the olives at the top were very old and dry. He put his hand down into the jar and pulled out not an olive, but a piece of gold. Then he pulled out more pieces of gold. Hussein was very surprised. He thought for a long time. In the end, he took the olives out of the jar and threw them away. Then he took the gold out of the jar and put it under the floor of his shop. To his wife he said only, "We can't use those olives. They were too old and dry." Next he bought new olives. He put them in the jar and closed it. "Perhaps Ali will come back," he thought. "He gave me a jar of olives, so I'll give him back a jar of olives." Some weeks later, Ali came back to Baghdad after 7 years. He went to Hussein and asked for his jar of olives. "Olives?" said Hussein. "What olives?" "I left a jar of olives with you. You put it in your shop." "Oh, yes," said Hussein. "I'm sorry, I forgot. 7 years is a long time. Let's go to my shop and I'll give it to you." When Ali saw the jar of olives, he felt very happy. "Thank you, my friend," said Ali. "Now I want to give you something." Ali put his hand in the jar and pulled out not gold pieces, but olives. He did this again and again. In the end he said, "Where's my gold? What happened to my gold?" "Gold? What gold?" asked Hussein. "I had some gold in this jar." "My friend, you left a jar of olives with me. You said nothing about a jar of gold." "There was gold in the jar under the olives," said Ali. "Please give it back to me." "I know nothing about any gold," answered Hussein. They talked about this for some time. Then Ali said, "Let's go to the judge. He'll help me, you'll see." Ali and Hussein went to the judge. The judge asked Ali, "Did anybody see the gold in the jar?" "No," answered Ali. "Did you tell anybody about the gold in the jar?" "No." "What did you say to Hussein? What was in the jar?" "Olives." "Ali," said the judge, "you're an old man. You don't remember things very well. Nobody saw the gold. You told nobody about it. So perhaps there was no gold in the jar." Ali was very angry with the judge, so he wrote a letter to the Sultan. The Sultan was very interested in Ali's story. Now everybody in Baghdad knew about the jar of olives. But who was right, Ali or Hussein? The Sultan said to his vizier, "Let's walk in the streets tonight and listen to people. What are they saying about Ali and Hussein?" That night, the Sultan and his vizier saw some children in the street. The children spoke the names of Ali and Hussein. "Those children are playing a game," said the vizier. "One boy is Ali and one is Hussein. Another boy is playing the judge." The Sultan listened to the boy judge and said, "That boy is very clever. He asks very good questions. Bring him to me tomorrow morning. Bring Ali and Hussein, the judge, the jar of olives, and 2 olive sellers too." The next day these people came to the Sultan. "Come, boy," the Sultan said. "Sit by me. Yesterday you judged Ali and Hussein in play. Now you will really do it. And you," he said to the judge, "listen to this boy and learn from him. He knows about right and wrong, good men and thieves." The boy was very afraid, but he said, "Bring me the jar of olives." "Now," he said to Ali, "did you give this jar to Hussein?" "Yes," answered Ali. "Did Ali give this jar to you?" he asked Hussein. "Yes," answered Hussein. The boy pulled out some olives from the jar and ate them. Then he said to Hussein, "These olives are good. Did you eat any?" "No," said Hussein. "I didn't open the jar when Ali was away from Baghdad." The boy gave some olives to the 2 olive sellers. "Try these olives," he said. "They're 7 years old, but they're very good." "7 years old?" cried the olive sellers. "These olives aren't 7 years old. No olive is good after 3 years. It loses its colour. These olives are this year's olives." "But Hussein says these olives were in the jar for 7 years, said the boy judge. Everybody looked at Hussein. Hussein's face turned white. "I took the gold," he said. "I'm sorry, Ali." So Hussein lost his good name. Ali had his gold again, but lost a friend. and the boy stayed with the Sultan and later was a famous judge.